poor. Hey! Now, our first move in industry, you always got to look at textiles, because usually that's where the first steps are. Our first steps were taken by Samuel Slater, who developed something called the putting out system, where basically the factory would make the thread, then it would deliver this thread around to farmers' households, and they would turn it into fabric. You know, it was great if they had like an older person in the house that could do it, or a kid that was done with their chores, or the farmer if they were still able to work after their exhausting day in the fields. The only problem with this is you've got absolutely no quality control, and you don't know how much thread fabric you're going to be getting back. So it's not a very efficient system. Even though the tools of manufacture totally owned by the worker. We have it. But then you have Henry Cabot Lowell who comes along. And because of his innovations, when he looked and spied on those places in Europe during the War of 1812, guys, his what made factory made clothing become the norm. Basically, they put the thread spinning and weaving machines to make fabric out of it in one place. So all of it is being done on site. Ready? Now guys, this cut down on time and cost of manufacture. Quality control was assured, as basically the employees were being watched over all the time. The tools of trade are owned by the manufacturer, not the people. So the people kind of become dispensable. Like I told you, they're under constant supervision. Now, before you get to, oh man, that is so... Guys, capitalism has elevated more people out of poverty than any other type of economic system. If you love capitalism so much, why don't you marry it? Maybe I have. Oh, by the way, guys, we have an election today. Just to show you real quick, because I think I found it. Every time there's an election, go to the League of Women Voters website. I'm going to go downstairs after this class, print this out, because you can actually take it into the little voting booth with you. It tells you stuff about each proposition, arguments for, arguments against, arguments for, arguments against. Guys, it's nonpartisan, meaning it's not Democrat, it's not Republican, it's not Libertarian, it's just facts. And guys, taking this makes you an educated voter when you go in. So definitely, when you're able to vote, which will be in 2 years, when we will be having another election, for most of you, because y'all are either 16 or 17, right? Mm-hmm. Any Doogie Howser child prodigies that are 8? Any? No, okay. And the putting out system falls by as much as 90%. With machine cloth was cheap and readily available. Starts to become the norm. People started looking down at people who still wear homespun. You ready? Another part of industrialization is interchangeable parts, or making a part that can fit in numerous items. Before this, if you had manufacturing, Basically, traditional manufacturing made each item one at a time, casting or carving by hand each gear, lever, and wheel. If the item broke down, it could only be repaired by a custom making a piece to fix it. This made the manufacturing process slow, difficult, and employment in the trade was limited to highly skilled craftsmen. Guys, kind of like if you have a Porsche Boxster, like my brother did, and something breaks on it. You have to take that into a specialized craftsman at the Porsche shop, otherwise you break your warranty. He has to look at your VIN if he wants to order a part, because guys, sometimes in the middle of production, Porsche changed a part. Why? Because they're Porsche. It calls over to Germany, takes it 2 weeks for the part to get over here, then another 3 weeks for them to install it. That's the specialized craftsman. On the other hand, you have a 1967 Volkswagen Bug, which is what I had. Basically, those cars were made on the whole basis of interchangeable parts. It's the people's car. That car hadn't been imported into America since 1978 was the last year they sold convertibles of the Beetle. If my distributor broke, I could still go to Pep Boys or Hilo or whatever, say I want a new distributor. I'd have to pay $90. If I wanted to be a cheapie, I'd just go to a salvage yard and say, hey, do you have a 12-volt distributor for a Volkswagen Bug? Anything from 1967 up, I could get, because everything 1966 below was 6-volt. I'd probably pay $40 for it. If I didn't put it on myself, I could take it to a guy who repaired lawnmowers and say, put it on. He could. Okay, why? Because they were built for interchangeable parts for the people. What are the results? In 1973, the Volkswagen Beetle is a series, outdistanced Model Ts, and the amount of cars being sold, they surpassed 50 million, which they maintained until they were finally defeated by Toyota, whose Camry, is now the title holder of that. Well, Thomas Jefferson noticed this when he was ambassador in France. He noticed that they made several items of the same gears, levers, and wheels that they would put in their different machines, like clocks and stuff like that. He wanted to try and get it done over here to America. Eli Whitney was the first guy that actually tried to get it done. He and his partner, John Hall, but they didn't have the precision tools yet for the machinery. So that was a failure, but John Hall went on his own and decided to begin interchangeable parts with gun manufacturing at Harper's Ferry, Virginia in 1824. It was so successful that it quickly spread to Springfield Armory in Massachusetts, and out to private gun manufacturers like Simeon North and Samuel Colt. And within 20 years, you have a whole array of products made with interchangeable parts, like padlocks, sewing machines, clocks, farm tools. Got it? Yeah. Now, Chauncey Jerome. This basically is a story of an American guy. Who was he? He's born when he's 11 years old after only 3 years of school. His dad dies. His mom can't afford to keep him, so he's kicked out of the house, works as an itinerant farm laborer. By 1814, he hooks up with Connecticut clockmaker Eli Terry, finds out he has incredible skill in building the wooden cases. Now, what kind of clocks do you build wooden cases for?
Grandfather.
Yeah, grandfather clocks. Well, in he's so successful at this, hey, I'm going to go into business for myself, which he does in 1817. What he does basically is he rents a water wheel at night. He pays the owner of the mill to basically hook up a saw to be powered by the turning water wheel, and he buys in mass quantity, making numerous identical clock cases. He makes a lot of money, and in 1824 he goes into partnership with his brother, and basically they make brass 8-day clocks. Now how much do you have to pay for it? You have to pay $20, which is a lot of money, but it's affordable to